Hello everyone, the War Within Prepatch is here, and I'm going to be showing you today how we are going to be playing Affliction Warlock. There's been a lot of changes happening. Are they good? Are they bad? I'll let that decision be up to you to figure out, but I'm going to be showing you what they are either way, whether you like it or not. So, Warlock has had like a complete rework, in my opinion. Actually, no, that's a lie. Affliction isn't that different in how we're going to actually play it. A lot of specs that I've been looking at, which are on my channel, by the way, are a lot more simplified. And I would say Affliction is still among one of those specs. It is quite interesting. I quite like it. I actually quite like a lot of the changes I'm seeing right now. A lot of things are being simplified a little bit. So Malefic Rapture is now our main Soul Shard spender. The Sow the Seeds talent is at the top, which is the one where basically your Seed of Corruption splattercates, well, not doesn't quite splattercate, but it embeds seeds into your for like more AoE. That is no longer here. That is gone. We are still going to use Seed of Corruption though in AoE to get that to get the corruption spell in there. If you don't know Warlock that well, or you're a total beginner, then hi, I'm Javier. I usually go quite in depth in a beginner and digestible format for you, so that you can kind of hit the ground running even as a new player. Within these pre-patch videos I'm doing, I do want to preface it by saying I'm not going as in depth. I am assuming you have a bit of knowledge, because if you're playing in pre-patch and you are completely new, cool, let's learn how to play the rotation, but at the same time, it's going to be changing again in a few weeks. And, you know, if you're gearing up now, it is quite late. Obviously, if that's still fun to you, then do it. But I do think most of the people watching this video are going to be, like, already playing, already have their gear, and they just want to know what rotation to do for the remainder of Dragonflight. With that being said, I am going to fully explain why and what we're doing here. So let's actually jump straight into the rotation and on single target. Then we're going to have a little look at what we're doing in an AoE and Mythic Plus circumstance. So this is the single target talent tree that I am now using in the War Within pre-patch. So if you know Affliction already, or if you don't, basically what Affliction is it's a spec where we're using a lot of dots, otherwise known as damage over time spells. So before we go into battle, the first thing we're going to do is cast Haunt. And FYI, the priority list is from left to right on this big bar in my screen. So Haunt here, a ghostly soul haunts the target, dealing damage and increasing your damage dealt to the target by 10% for 18 seconds. Why do we use Haunt when we go into combat? Well, because, like I said, it's going to increase the damage we do to the target. So we're going to keep Haunt up, we're going to use it when we go in and keep it up at all times. It does also help with this talent here, Shadow's Embrace. Shadow Bolt applies Shadow Embrace, increasing your damage dealt to the target by 4% up to 2 times. And if we actually then come down here to Improved Haunt, you can see on this talent, your Haunt also applies Shadow's Embrace. So it's actually adding not just the 10%, but if you look on our target down to the right, it's also an extra 4% taken from us as well. After that, we're going to then use Unstable Affliction on our target. Applies one target with 30,000 shadow damage over 21 seconds. Generating a soul shard if they die while afflicted. On my weak aura here, which is the Luxfos weak aura, if you'd like it, these are our soul shards here. You can see we're generating them and then we'll be spending them. So again, we're using Haunt. We're then putting and keeping up a stable affliction on the target. The next one is going to be Agony. What does Agony do? Well, it inflicts increasing agony on the target, causing shadow damage over 18 seconds. Damage starts low and ramps up. Refreshing Agony maintains its current damage level. What do I mean by that then? Well, remember I just said it starts off low damage and ramps up. Do not let Agony come off the target. So if we look on our target right here, you can see it's got 7 stacks, 8 stacks, 9 stacks. That's the damage ramping up. If I then refresh Agony, you can see it's now got 12, 13, 14. It's keeping the same stack level. When you add it back on the target, it doesn't start from 0 again. It keeps that current damage level, so you never want to let it fall off. And it's actually the same for all of your dots, really. You want to be keeping these up on your target at all times. Then we are going to apply Corruption. Corrupts the target, dealing shadow damage and more over a certain amount of time. Then We're going to use our Shadow Bolt. Oh, and actually we've got a proc here. This is called Nightfall. So while it's procced, I want to tell you about that. Nightfall is here. Corruption, this spell here, has a chance to cause your next Shadow Bolt to deal 25% increased damage. Shadow Bolt is instant and drains soul channels for 50% faster. So we're using Shadow Bolt in this instance. So use that whenever you get it, but also use it at this point in the rotation. So again, use Haunt, keep up Unstable Affliction, keep up Agony, keep up Corruption, then use your Shadow Bolt. And we also want to use our Shadow Bolt to actually keep up maximum stacks of our Shadow Embrace. So yes, it's applied by Haunt, but also Shadow Embrace can stack up to 2 times. So when we first go into combat, we're going to get 1 stack from Improved Haunt, and the other stack is going to be from our Shadow Bolt. And we're also going to use any instant ones we get when it procs. After that, we're going to use our Phantom Singularity, places that on the target, which consumes the life of all enemies within 15 yards, dealing damage over 14 seconds and healing us for some of that damage. After that, we're going to use Soul Rot, wither away all life force of your current target and up to 4 additional targets nearby, causing your primary target to suffer shadow damage and your secondary to suffer more damage for the next 8 seconds. Casting Drain Life will also drain life, blah, 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 blah. Basically, get that up on your target as well. After that, we're going to summon our Dark Glare, which is this big baddie. Summon the Dark Glare from the Twisting Nether that extends the duration of all your damage over time effects. So basically, get all of your damage time effects up on the target when you go into combat in this order, using your Shadow Bolt, using your Phantom Singularity, and then boom, we've got all of those dots up, summon that Dark Glare, and extend all of those dots on the target. The Dark Glare will serve you for 20 seconds, blasting its target for damage, increasing by 25% for every damage over time effect you have on the target. So it's going to do more damage for the more dots you have. So if you've only got Unstable Affliction up, it's not going to do much damage. If you've got all these dots up, it's going to do loads of damage. After that, you can see we've actually maxed out on Soul Shards. How are we going to spend them? Ta-da! It's Malefic Rapture. We're going to use these as many times as possible at this point until we've got about 2 Soul Shards left, basically. And then after that, we're going to cast Oblivion. This costs 2 Soul Shards, hence why we're going to stop using Malefic Rapture at 2 Soul Shards. And then after that, basically just keep your dots up, and that is the priority list. Let's actually show it then, because a lot of you ask in the comments for me to show it in practice. So, you know what? I'm going to listen, and I'm going to start doing. So, I'm going into combat. I'm like, oh, let's roleplay going into combat. So, Haunt, Unstable Affliction, Agony, Corruption. Let's get my second stack of my Shadow Embrace up. Phantom Singularity, Soul Rot. Imagine we can use our Dark Glare. I'm going to use 2 Malefic Raptures, 1, 2, and then I'm going to use Oblivion, and it's channeling. And then everything's starting to fall off. So I'm going to use my Haunt before it comes off, my Agony before it comes off. I'm going to use my Unstable Affliction before it comes off, and I'm going to use my Shadow Bolt. And then I'm going to use my Shadow Bolt again, etc. Basically, I'm just going to keep my dots up, using Shadow Bolt as a filler, using my Dark Glare. Corruption will stay up on the target. And then that's pretty much it. That is basically what I am going to do. So, yeah, spending my Malefic Raptures there, using my Haunts, using my Agony, and my Unstable Affliction, and all of that cool stuff, basically. And that is pretty much how we're going to do the single target for Affliction. Let's just back off, wait for our cooldowns to come off, and I'm going to switch over to the Mythic Plus build and show you now how that one works. So now that everything's off cooldown, I'm going to go over to Mythic Plus. I like to show you it actually changing over so you can see what is changing. We are going for Drain Soul. Oh, one thing I didn't mention. You know earlier when I said use Drain Soul or Shadow Bolt? It's because you have to pick one or the other. So we're now going for Drain Soul. And you don't get your Phantom Singularity. You get a Vile Taint. Unleash a Vile Explosion at the target location, dealing shadow damage over 10 seconds to 8 enemies within 10 yards and applies Agony and Curse of Exhaustion to them. Cool. I'm nearly as fast as talking as Trisha Paytas. So what are we going to do in an AoE situation? Well, I'm going to plonk my Seed of Corruption there. I'm going to look in my lovely new The War Within spellbook and plonk my Vile Taint there. And then after that, you're really just going to maintain the same rotation that I showed you before. Apart from Shadow Bolt is now Drain Soul, and your Singularity is now Vile... is Vile Taint. But don't use it here, use it up here. So basically, use Seed of Corruption as your #1 priority. Boom. Then use your Vile Taint. Boom. Your Drain Soul is going to proc, not your Shadow Bolt, because obviously that's what you have now. Apart from that, keep up your Haunt, keep up your Agony, keep up your Corruption, keep up your Soul Rot, keep up your Dark Glare, use your Malefic Raptures. It's literally the exact same rotation, apart from you're adding in Seed of Corruption and you are using Vile Taint. I didn't explain what Seed of Corruption does, however. It embeds a Demon Seed into the enemy target that will explode after 10.5 seconds, dealing X amount of shadow damage to all enemies within 10 yards, and applies Corruption to them. So it's going to apply this spell here, Corruption, to all your enemies. As you can see over here, Corruption on you, Corruption. They've all been bloody corrupted, which is not good for them anyway. And that basically is what it does. The seed will detonate early if the target is hit by other detonations or takes damage from your spells. Honestly, Affliction, I think, is simplified. I think it is fantastic, and I love it in the War Within pre-patch. Let me know in the comments below. Do you like it? Do you love it? If you need any help on it at all, please do join Patreon. You can also get my UI by joining Patreon. I can give you one-on-one DMs and help you with the rotations for this or any other spec in Patreon. And you get access to a VIP Discord channel as well, where my experts can help you out. If you're looking for other specs, click this playlist here. I'm doing them all for pre-patch, and I will be one of the first creators out there to give you the rundown on PvP and Mythic Plus and raiding, the full guides for the War Within when it launches. So don't forget to subscribe, because I am literally sacrificing my first 2 weeks of playing the War Within because I've been making the guides for you all. Well, I'm actually making half of them, once they finish making changes, I've been making them. Yeah. So I will be really working hard to get those out for you ASAP as soon as the expansion launches. So make sure you're here and ready and waiting. And if there's nothing else to say, I will see you in the War Within.